This is the tale of Darth Bane, one of the most influential Sith in the history of the Star Wars galaxy. At a time when the Sith were many, rivaling the Jedi in sheer numbers, only Bane had the vision and foresight that for the Sith to survive and allow the dark side to triumph, their power must be concentrated into a chosen few. A being of unquestioned strength in the Force, he hated the dilution of power and weakness he saw in the current Sith, and created the indomitable rule of two. Two there should be, no more, no less. One to embody power, the other to crave it. This video will cover the trilogy of books written by Drew Karpyshyn, detailing the rise of Darth Bane and the creation of the rule of two, generations before the Battle of Yavin. The ancient Sith planet of Korriban has fallen. Sith Master Dark Lord Khan, founder of the Brotherhood of Darkness, has wrested the planet away from its Republic and Jedi defenders. Flanked by Dark Lords Cordus and Copex, who serve him in the Brotherhood, Khan relishes the death of nearly 100 Jedi in the defense of Korriban. It is one of the first steps in what will be a war that will shake the galaxy, one that will change the Sith forever after. In the hellish cortosis mines of Apatros, a young miner named Dessel pounds away at a cortosis vein with a hydraulic jack, grueling and punishing work. Despite the brutal labor, he knows he will only be paid in how much cortosis he brings back, and continues on. However, the equipment Dessel uses, provided by the Outer Rim Oreworks Company, is cheap and soon malfunctions. Dessel has been working in the mines for 10 years, ever since he was a teenager. He knows the rule of the land, and now another miner named Gerd moves in to jump Dessel's claim. Despite his relative youth, Dessel cuts a burly, imposing figure. He confronts Gerd, who was a friend of Dessel's deceased father. His father and his friends, including Gerd, routinely bullied and tormented Dessel as he grew up in the mines as well. 5 years ago, Dessel's father died of a sudden heart attack, and his friends have never forgiven the young man. Gerd drunkenly goads and taunts Dessel, calling him the derogatory nickname he was called as a youth, Bane. But Dessel is now a hardened man, and doesn't rise to the bait. Bane. It represented everything spiteful, petty, and mean about his father. It struck at the innermost fears of every child. Fear of disappointment, fear of abandonment, fear of violence. Dessel shoves Gerd aside, who falls and rises again to brawl Dessel. However, Gerd is fresh and unexhausted, for he has not started work in the mines for the day yet. Dessel's back cramps up, and Gerd gains the upper hand as they grapple. He lunges a finger into Dessel's eye, looking to gouge it out. But then a dark rage hits Dessel, one that rejuvenates him, clears his mind, and even seems to offer premonitions towards Gerd's next actions. It is a gift Dessel has had all his life, the feeling as if something guides and directs his actions. He lunges and bites off Gerd's thumb, ending the fight. Dessel returns to his bunk, but later learns he is being suspended without pay until Gerd can return to work. It will only add to his growing debt, which he must pay off in order to leave Apatros. It seems the mining will be the death of him one way or another, but Dessel is certain he is destined for greater things in the galaxy. He learns a Republic military ship has landed on Apatros and sees an opportunity. For the officers, likely bored, will head to the cantinas to gamble and play cards, and Dessel with his gifts of premonition can win money off them. He makes his way through the run-down, barely functioning colony and enters a cantina with a Neimoidian bartender named Groshik. Dessel also sees the crisp Republic officers in the corner, likely trying to recruit miners to fight for the Republic against the Sith in the ongoing war. However, he has no interest in fighting for them, for his debt will not dissolve under the Republic, which believes in the letter of the law. Dessel enters a sabak game against the officers, which lasts for hours as he gradually forces the other players out, aided by his natural skill and the premonitions he is gifted with. The officers try to entice him to join the Republic military, claiming the Jedi General Hoth has turned the tide of the war. Dessel instead goads them, seeming to defend the Sith as part of his overall neutral stance on the war. However, as the game drags on, he becomes less certain of his victory and is soon cleaned out in a single hand. A Republic ensign taunts him, and out of pure rage, Dessel buys in again. He begins to play acting on pure impulse and emotion, and manages to inexplicably tie the ensign's next hand, sending the game effectively into sudden death. Dessel then gets another seemingly improbable hand, yet he was certain all along of the outcome through reasons he could not explain. He draws upon the ensign's rage and hate, which seems to fuel his own power and strength. Dessel wins the entire sabak pot, and an ugly fight nearly breaks out before Grosha kicks everyone out except Dessel. He tells the miner the entire crowd seemed to feed off his anger and power, but Dessel remains nonchalant about the entire debacle. However, as he leaves the cantina, he is jumped by the ensign and two other soldiers. As they scuffle, Dessel senses one of them draw a knife and accidentally kills the soldier. They break apart, and he now knows the murder will effectively be a death sentence for him. Whether in self-defense or not, Dessel will be blamed for the killing and must now find a way off Apprentice. He goes to Groshik, who tells Dessel his only option is to join the Brotherhood of Darkness in order to escape the wrath of the Republic. He is smuggled in a ship off Apprentice and joins the military machine of the Sith. Dessel proves to be fit for military life and quickly rises to the rank of sergeant and gains command of his own platoon, the Gloom Walkers, all within a year. The unit gains considerable repute in many battles fighting for the Sith, and is currently stationed on Phasira waiting for further orders. Dessel's gifts of premonition aided the unit particularly in the Battle of Kashyyyk, though his talent and power flies under the radar and goes uncongratulated. However, the Gloom Walkers soon receive orders from Lieutenant Ulabor to attack a Republic outpost across an open valley before nightfall, effectively setting them up for a massacre. Des notices Ulabor seems to also realize the order is a mistake, but is too afraid to invoke the wrath of the Dark Lords of the Sith. Des refuses to send his troops to suicide and moves quickly, mutinying against Ulabor and knocking him out. They decide to move at night, a familiar tension sinking over the squad as they prepare for battle. Des, however, thrives in that sort of environment. Transform the fear into anger and hate. Hatred of the enemy, hatred of the Republic and the Jedi. The hate gave him strength, and strength brought him victory. Moving ahead of the main Sith army, the Gloom Walkers attack the outpost, Des killing with a ruthless surgical precision. The outpost is destroyed, preventing the Republic from learning of the Sith army's movements. In the midst of the battle, Des was blinded by a flash grenade. Yet somehow, he was able to pick up a sniper rifle and fire off several impossible shots. It is another example of his mysterious abilities, and he feels a rush of exhilarating power, yet apprehension at his inability to control it. However, upon arrival back at the main camp, Des is arrested by Ulabor. He is taken away from the Gloom Walkers into the Sith Lord Kopetz for a court-martial. Des is thrown into a pit, but is soon retrieved by a mysterious cloaked figure who says he will be dealt with on Korriban. As he lands on the homeworld of the Sith, Des senses an ancient, powerful malice permeating in its atmosphere. He is thrown into a cold, dark room with another cloaked figure. The figure is Lord Kopetz of the Sith, who questions Des about the mission on Phasira. The conversation turns to the topic of the Force and the ancient conflict between the Jedi and Sith. Des admits to knowing little of that realm, and Kopetz surprises him by revealing he is Force sensitive. He is offered a place in the Brotherhood of Darkness, to train on Korriban to become a Lord of the Sith. He would leave his old life behind, including the Gloom Walkers. After the briefest of hesitations, Des agrees to train on Korriban, and chooses his new name as Bane. He could rely on himself, like always. He'd be a fool to turn this opportunity down. Later, Copex confides to Lord Cortus, head of the Academy, that despite Bane being relatively older than the other students, his potential is immense, and he could even be the prophesied Sith Ari. Bane's training begins under the instruction of Cortus as Copex returns to the front lines of the war. Although there are many other academies, the one on Korriban is specifically intended to produce Sith Lords of vast power and influence, rather than brute warriors or assassins. Over several weeks, he becomes acclimated to the cutthroat, competitive environment of the Academy alongside the other students. Many are already more familiar with the dark side than Bane, but he soon realizes that he is one of the only ones who have naturally called upon it without even realizing it. There are an impressive number of students at the Academy, nearly 6 for every master available for instruction. As a result, the weak and those who falter are quickly left behind. Bane tries to learn all he can from the instructors and largely keeps to himself, not socializing with the other students. In his free time, he studies the ancient archives in the library, fascinated by the teachings they offer. He was starting to grasp a great truth on a deep, fundamental level, that strength to survive must come from within. Others will always fail you. When in need, look to the self. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood of Darkness fleet launches a surprise attack on the planet of Ruusan, a staging area for the Republic against Kashyyyk. Its leader, Dark Lord Khan, controls the assault using the ancient technique of battle meditation. Concentrating intensely, he sows discord in the crews of the Republic ships, while magnifying the confidence of his own. The Republic fleet is driven back, but somehow is able to regroup and form a defensive line, foiling Khan's attack. He and Lord Copex realize this signifies the presence of a Jedi Master somewhere. Khan and the unseen Jedi engage in a mighty battle of wills while Copex flies the starfighter and infiltrates the Jedi's cruiser. He slaughters the Padawans guarding the battle meditation chamber, then cuts down the Jedi Master, muttering, "Peace is a lie." The battle swings back towards the Sith's favor, and the entire Republic Defense Force is massacred. On Korriban, Bane's power continues to grow as he learns more about the Force and the powers of the dark side. Among his new strengths is lightsaber combat. Although treachery to bring down academic rivals is encouraged in the Academy, deliberate and open sabotage is punished. Issuing a challenge towards another student in lightsaber combat thus offers a way to gain or lose prestige and standing within the Academy and in the eyes of the Masters. Lord Kasim instructs Bane on Form 5, Gem So, which emphasizes strength and power in its strikes. Several months later, Bane now feels confident enough to challenge another student. He challenges a student named Foharg to a duel with the practice sabers. Bane had previously lost to Foharg in a past duel and now seeks retribution. Although his skill has grown greatly, a surprise sequence change by Foharg catches Bane off guard and he is disarmed. He senses the crowd quietly celebrating, for they are resentful and spiteful of the extra attention he has gained from the Masters recently. Foharg taunts Bane, calling him a waste of the Academy and truly the bane of the Sith. Bane falls to a knee, a cold, deep rage slowly taking over his body. He lashes out at Foharg with a burst of the dark side, throwing him to the ground. Bane stands up and force chokes Foharg, who is laying in front of Kasim. The instructor tells Bane to stop, but he hears nothing. A final surge of power roared up in the core of Bane's being and exploded out into the world. In response, Foharg's body went stiff, and his eyes rolled back in his head. Bane coldly walks away from the body, while well aware that Kasim now seemed to take a great interest in him. He soon realizes he is being followed by Sirak, the top apprentice at the Academy, and his 2 lackeys Loke and Yevra. Sirak tries to intimidate Bane, who knows he has now garnered enough attention to be deemed a threat. The next day, Bane is summoned to a private meeting with Lord Cortus. He does not know if he will be praised or punished for the killing of Fohar. All night, Bane had struggled with the conflicting emotions of triumph and remorse. For though he had killed another apprentice of the Academy in cold blood, surrendering himself completely over to the dark side had felt right in a way he just couldn't explain. However, when he awoke, Bane became convinced his actions were for the good of the Sith. Fohar had been an obstacle and weak, and deserved to be eliminated. The teachings of the Academy were self-contradictory. The dark side allowed for no mercy, no forgiveness. Yet the apprentices were expected to pull back once they had bested their opponents in the dueling ring. It was unnatural. Cortus's quarters are lined with extravagant luxury goods, and the Sith Master surprisingly congratulates Bane on his extreme display of power. Bane, still battling with a small bit of guilt and self-doubt, also learns the Sithari is a being who embodied the dark side of the Force, and that some students believe Sirak to be this figure. Lord Khan, however, does not believe in the prophecy, stating it goes against the core principles of the Brotherhood of Darkness. Over time, Bane continues to be plagued by the murder of Fohar, which was his first kill in cold blood, and seems different from the deaths he inflicted while in the Gloom Walkers. Additionally, he is disturbed by the sensation that his hatred seemed to fuel the dark side, which incidentally strengthened his hate. Bane wonders if there is a way to alter this cycle, something missing from the teachings of the Masters. He dreams later that night of the evening his father died. After his father, Hurst, went on a drunken rant and badly beat Bane, he laid in bed saying over and over in his mind, "I hope you die." It is then revealed that Bane inadvertently used the dark side to kill his own father, envisioning a giant hand crushing his heart. The realization only troubles him more, though he knows those murders will not be his last. As a result, Bane begins to lose his confidence, and his usage in the Force dwindles and becomes less in might. He begins private lightsaber instruction with Kasim, who urges him to use the Force more in his attack sequences. Bane seems to have no longer fully embraced the dark side, and becomes a shell of himself. And frustratingly, he cannot seem to find that swirling power again, no matter how hard he tries. His prestige in the Academy is dropping, and Bane rages at his impotence and inability to stop the inevitable challenges that will come from the other students. Meanwhile, the Sith fleet has made significant gains in the war, assuming control over two major hyperspace lanes to the core worlds. Khan, however, is apprehensive, for the Jedi seem to have vanished, and he has not encountered General Hoth at all recently. Then, Kopex arrives at Khan's ship Nightfall and informs him Ruusan has fallen. In a stunning counterattack, thousands of Jedi landed on the planet and swarmed the Sith. Their new objective in the war is to eliminate the dark side users, targeting the Sith Lords to cut the head off the snake of the Brotherhood of Darkness. General Hoth is leading this new army of light, and Khan realizes the war will subtly shift to a conflict between Force users, not armies. However, he tells Kopex the apprentices on Korriban will not be called to the front lines, for it is not their time to fight yet. On Korriban, Kasim approaches Cortus and tells him about Bane's regression. Surprisingly, Cortus asserts Bane is of no further use to the Sith, though this is actually a political move to undermine Lord Kopex, a rival of Cortus who brought Bane to the Academy. Kasim soon stops giving Bane private instruction, quietly signifying to the other students the Master seemed to have lost faith in Bane, and that he is now vulnerable. Bane knows his time is running out, and feels he must challenge someone to save his reputation. So he challenges Sirak, who fights with a double-bladed saber. However, the duel is terribly one-sided, and Bane is hopelessly outclassed by Sirak, who fights like a whirlwind, combining several techniques and complex sequences that overwhelm Bane. He is badly beaten, breaking multiple bones, and is brutally knocked out. Khan and Kopex land on Ruusan, a planet now ravaged by constant war. Lying on the inner edges of the Outer Rim, it is a key staging point for both the Republic and Brotherhood of Darkness. The battles move from the skies to the ground, where the landscape is devastated, and the Jedi string their forces out to protect the civilians. Khan looks to take advantage of this, while using his battle meditation skills to subtly maintain morale in his forces. However, the Sith are still outnumbered by the Jedi by 2-to-1 odds. Kopex is reluctant to send his troops against a much larger force, but then Khan unveils a hidden spy within the Jedi Order itself. It is a beautiful young woman who seems to radiate ambition and moves in a charming, sensual manner. Her name is Jithani, and she is a former Jedi who has betrayed the Order and defected to the Sith to provide intel. Meanwhile, Bane awakens in a Bacta tank, knowing his fall is final and he will never be a true lord in the Brotherhood of Darkness. 3 weeks later, news arrives in Korriban telling of a resounding victory against the Army of Light on Ruusan, in which General Hoth was forced to flee and the Jedi were routed. Nonetheless, the war continues, and Bane's reputation is now thoroughly destroyed. He slinks in the shadows to avoid unwanted attention from the students now. Jithani then arrives at the academy, capturing the attention of everyone, including Sirak. Bane finds his only solace in the archives and continues his studies there, but unknown to him, Jithani has been watching him. She senses his immense power in the dark side, but also realizes his defeat at the hands of Sirak has shattered his confidence. Jithani sees Bane studying alone in the archives and walks over to him, hoping to seduce him to her side to help her overtake Sirak. Bane is reading a text about Darth Revan, curious as to why the Brotherhood stopped using that ancient title in favor of Dark Lord. Jithani approaches him, asking for help and challenging Sirak. In exchange, she offers to train him in secret in ways to regain his connection to the Force. She holds his hand, and for the briefest of moments, Bane feels a small flame of hatred and anger, reigniting the dark side's power in him. But it quickly vanishes, and Bane, desperate to regain that feeling, agrees to help Jithani. Jithani, meanwhile, was quietly taken off guard by the depth of Bane's power, and resolves to still train him, but always keep Bane's skills a notch below hers. And Bane, reinvigorated after meeting with her, meets with Kasim again and is able to convince him to begin training him once more in lightsaber combat, saying he wants revenge against Sirak. Bane soon begins to find his strength again, both in the Force and in the lightsaber. He maintains an aura of defeat around other students in order to keep a low profile, while also not keying in Jithani on his training with Kasim, and vice versa. In this way, Bane is able to maintain a subtle advantage over both his teachers. His progress is remarkable, and Bane begins studying once more in the archives, finding them to be perhaps his most valuable source of knowledge. Kasim is impressed with Bane, for he has moved beyond simple attack sequences and is now letting the Force guide his blade without even thinking about his next move. It adds a layer of surprise, power, and unpredictability to Bane's fighting style, meaning he will soon be able to challenge Sirak again. Meanwhile, Jithani begins to worry she may lose control over Bane, whose powers may soon surpass her own. She confides to him that she left the Jedi Order after a romantic relationship with another apprentice was discovered. Now an undeniable tension exists between her and Bane, but Jithani is troubled she cannot discern the man's true intentions and feelings. Bane continues to train with Kasim, constantly studying the Blade Master's fighting style with a double-bladed saber and picking his mind for knowledge. However, he notices that Kasim and the other masters at the academy seem unfamiliar with the ancient Sith writings, and seem to have turned their backs on the Sith Lords of old. He asks Kasim why the title of Darth is not used anymore. Kasim replies saying Lord Khan believes the title signifies an era in which Sith Lords ruled by dominion and enforcing their will on other dark side users. According to Khan, the Sith must all band together for the sake of the greater good, which is why everyone is, theoretically at least, viewed as equals in the Brotherhood of Darkness. Bane listens to Kasim, but quietly and firmly disagrees with this logic. Equality is a myth to protect the weak. Some of us are strong in the Force, others are not. Only a fool believes otherwise. Bane believes that harmony and cooperation cannot exist in an order of Sith, where the dark side will wither if its power is diluted by many weak users. He must look outside the academy to find more insightful teachings. Meeting with Jithani later, He expresses his waning confidence in the Master's teachings, and also confides that he plans to challenge Sirak in the dueling ring again. Jithani, taken aback, is reassured by Bane that no one will know of her involvement in the plot to take down Sirak, and he kisses her. The following morning, as rain falls on the training ground, Bane prepares to challenge his nemesis once more and unveil the true extent of his powers to the Academy. A dark anger begins to build up in him as he remembers the beating he suffered last time. He could feel the dark side churning inside him, a storm far fiercer than the one pelting down on him from the sky. It was time for his hate to set him free. Sirak, I challenge you. Sirak strides forward, exuding a calm confidence, and the duel begins. Bane moves suddenly, initially keeping his attacks crude and off balance. He sees an opening for a quick victory, but opts to drag the fight on instead. As the fight goes on, Bane passes up more opportunities to end Sirak, choosing to let the Zabrak exhaust himself to send a bigger message. As he toys with Sirak, who is now hopelessly outmatched, Bane feels the dark side build up in him. Then, he strikes like lightning, disarming Sirak and smashing his practice saber into his leg in the blink of an eye. Kasim ends the duel, praising Bane's secrecy and skill as Sirak is carried away. Jithani confronts him after, accusing Bane of holding back from killing Sirak, believing he still refuses to fully channel the dark side. Bane knows the opposite is true. The dark side still flows in him like a raging river, and he now moves with a quiet righteousness. However, Jithani remains an enigma to him, and he is unaware that she now perceives him as strong in the Force, but too weak to eliminate potential threats. Kasim visits Bane later that night and gives him the weapon of his master, a lightsaber with a single blade and a unique curved hilt. Bane is stunned when Kasim reveals that he killed his master, a personal test of his own might and skill. The next morning, he is summoned to meet with Qordis again, and learns the Sith Lord has known of his sessions with Jithani all along. They are ordered to stop meeting, and Bane is also banned from continuing his studies entirely at the archives. He is furious, knowing that this is a punishment for beating Qordis' social hierarchy within the Academy, his revival despite his shunning and exile. Additionally, the imposed ban of studying the ancient Sith perplexes Bane, and he stands his ground against Qordis, believing there is still knowledge to be learned in the Valley of the Dark Lords. He goes so far to suggest it would be of more use in the teachings of the Academy, and Qordis strikes him. Bane leaves Qordis' quarters, determined to find the valley and the secrets it holds. Meanwhile, Sirak continues to heal in a Bacta tank as Bane disappears from the Academy. The Zabrak is then approached by Jithani, who proposes he help her take down Bane if he returns from the Valley of Dark Lords alive. As for Bane, he has been trekking across the desert wastelands of Korriban for hours. Troublingly, he has not felt the dark side strengthen since he left the Academy. Finally, he reaches the valley and heads to the nearest temple. It is in ruins, and Bane searches the desolate building while being stalked by poisonous pelko bugs attracted by his power. However, he finds nothing of use, and cries out to the spirits of the ancient Sith, begging them to answer him. On Ruusan, the war against the Army of Light has dragged on to a standstill. Lord Copex is disgusted at the state of the army of the Brotherhood of Darkness, filled with exhausted, wounded, and flat-out demoralized soldiers. Even Lord Khan, though his voice remains calm and confident, appears haggard and wild to Copex. He knows the army needs a jolt, and convinces Khan to summon Qordis' apprentices from Korriban. Bane continues to explore the Valley of Dark Lords for 13 days, battling starvation and the hostile wildlife as his condition weakens. However, though he has found nothing, his mind has been cleared, and the lies of Qordis and the Academy have been fully uncovered in his mind. They had twisted and perverted the ancient order of the Sith. Khan had cast aside the true power of the individual and replaced it with the false glory of self-sacrifice in the name of a worthy cause. He sought to destroy the Jedi through might of arms rather than cunning. Worst of all, he proclaimed that all were equal in the Brotherhood of the Sith. But Bane knew equality was a myth. The strong were meant to rule, the weak to serve. Bane journeys back to the Academy, surer than ever of his purpose, to lead the Sith back to the true ways of the dark side. The apprentices and masters, they all had to be purged from the abomination of the Academy for this to happen. But Bane needs an ally in his efforts, and he decides he will approach Githany to see where she stands. The masters, including Cordis, soon learn Bane has returned and promptly ravage the cafeteria. The timing coincides with the arrival of Khan's order, which will promote all of the apprentices fully into the Brotherhood. Cordis worries that Bane may defect, which would threaten the stability of the Sith and lead to infighting, as Bane is one of the more prominent Sith apprentices. Sirak and Githany, now working together, learn of Bane's return and prepare to attack while he is still relatively weakened. Cordis meets with Bane, proclaiming him a Lord of the Sith, a title Bane finds empty, devoid of any real meaning. He gives him a new synthetic crystal for his lightsaber, but Bane remains outspoken against Khan and the Brotherhood, and makes preparations to leave Korriban. Later that night, Githany approaches Bane and asks to talk with him in the archives. Bane follows her, but is ambushed by Sirak, Yevra, and Loke. Furious at his blindness, he prepares to fight them 1v4. However, he calls out to Githany at the last moment, recalling how she first proclaimed Sirak as the rival she wanted to eliminate. She tosses him his lightsaber, and the battle begins, Githany and Bane against the Zabraks. Githany, fighting with her unconventional light whip, kills Yevra after Bane throws her into a wall. Bane duels Sirak as Githany takes out Loke's eye, then slashes his throat. Sirak, outnumbered, drops his lightsaber and surrenders, begging for mercy. Bane coldly responds, "Those who ask for mercy are too weak to deserve it." Bane decapitates Sirak and feels a clear surge of power and purpose. Bane only felt one thing: freedom. The guilt, the shame, the weight of responsibility had all vanished in that single decisive act. He had opened himself to the dark side completely. It surged through him, filling him with confidence and power. He then turns his attention to Githany, who still believes in the presumed strength of Khan and the Brotherhood. Disappointed, he leaves her in the archives, telling her to go to Ruusan. Bane barges into Cordis's quarters, telling him of Sirak's death. He proclaims himself Darth Bane, boldly stating none of the masters are strong enough to stop him. Bane then takes a ship and flies away from Korriban. On Ruusan, the Army of Light is also feeling the effects of the lengthy battle. General Hoth knows his army is being rapidly depleted as news arrives of the incoming Sith reinforcements. His top commanders, Masters Pernikar and Valentine Farfalla, wonder if the prolonged campaign is doing more harm than good to the cause of the Republic. Hoth then sends Farfalla to find reinforcements for the Jedi. Githany, at the side of Lord Cordis, arrives on Ruusan with the rest of the Korriban reinforcements. She sees Lord Khan, who looks frazzled, desperate, and diminished, and wonders if Bane is correct about the Brotherhood. However, Khan straightens and speaks in a booming voice to the camp, using his subtle powers to bolster confidence and morale of the troops. Meanwhile, Bane travels to the planet of Lahon, or the Unknown World, home of the ancient Rakadas, Force users that had ruled the galaxy before the Republic. They were discovered long ago by Darth Revan and Darth Malak, and the planet is now encircled with debris from a massive battle between the Sith and Jedi from that time. Bane has now arrived to find the final piece of knowledge to complete his ascension. Upon landing, he feels a distinct humming of power, much stronger than anything he felt on Korriban. He tames a Rancor and commands it to take him to the ancient Rakatan Temple. Bane reaches the temple, which is also seemingly empty. However, he comes across a glowing arcane symbol. Pressing against it, he finds an ancient Sith holocron. A cloaked figure appears as a beam of light. "I am Darth Revan, Dark Lord of the Sith." The empty halls of the temple above trembled with the reverberations of Bane's triumphant, booming laughter. Bane spends hours learning from Revan, learning ancient techniques and powers he never could have dreamed of if he was still ensnared by the Academy. Meanwhile, Jithani awakens from a vision and knows that when Bane comes to Ruusan, it will be to destroy the Brotherhood, not save it. She warns the ever-erratic Lord Khan, who reassures her Bane will be dealt with. Khan then strides through his impatient, stagnant army and finds Lord Kasim. Kasim will be sent to convince Bane to join the Brotherhood, or kill him. Still on Lehon, Bane continues to learn from Revan. He is absolutely convinced the Academy and current Sith Order must be destroyed, but must now figure out how the Sith will be rebuilt. Those who accept the power of the dark side must also accept the challenge of holding on to it. By its very nature, the dark side invites rivalry and strife. This is the greatest strength of the Sith. It culls the weak from our order. The strong must be careful lest they be overwhelmed by the ambitions of those beneath them. In time, the apprentices will unite their strength and overthrow the master. It is inevitable, axiomatic. That is why each master must only have one student. The holocron begins to fail, and as Bane crushes it to dust, he comes to his greatest realization, his legacy, the rule of two. To remain strong, the Sith needed a single, almighty leader to represent the strength of the dark side. But to mitigate the inherent weakness of a numerous order, that master should only have one apprentice. Two there should be, no more, no less. One to embody power, the other to crave it. And Darth Bane will be that first master, once the other Sith and the teachings of Khan are purged from the galaxy. All that remains is to find a suitable apprentice. Lord Kasim then arrives, delivering an ultimatum to Bane to return to Ruusan or face death. Bane sighs, knowing that Kasim still believes in the principles of the Brotherhood, and therefore must be one of the purged Sith. Bane and the Twi'lek Blade Master begin to duel, both moving faster than the eye can see, the Force guiding their attacks. Bane is barely able to hold off Kasim, but he is stronger in the Force and unleashes his full potential, launching a savage flurry of strikes. Now Kasim is the one being driven back. But then the Blade Master, master of all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, and perhaps the greatest swordsman to ever live, takes his double-bladed saber and halves it. He then attacks Bane wielding 2 single blades, and Bane, confronted by this completely foreign fighting style, now knows he is outmatched. Bane cedes more and more ground until they face off under a massive archway. Kasim is confident in his victory, but Bane unleashes a massive force shockwave. The ceiling collapses on Kasim, killing the great Sith Lord. Bane then flies to Ruusan, planning to strike at Khan. Meanwhile, General Hoth and Pernikar, his closest friend, are ambushed by the Sith on Ruusan. Pernikar falls in the battle. Farfalla has finally arrived with reinforcements after months, but Hoth's mental condition is now worsening, particularly exacerbated by the death of Pernikar. Angry and racked with grief and a sense of hopelessness towards the war, he lashes out at Farfalla, who flies away, warning Hoth he is slipping to the dark side. News of the rift in the Jedi leadership reaches Khan, who can't help but wonder if the dark and light side combatants are being drawn into a philosophical gray area of sorts. The tide seems to be swinging back to the favor of the Sith, but news of Kasim's death troubles Khan. He plays a holo from Bane for Jithani, in which Bane seems troubled and expresses his desire to rejoin the Brotherhood. He also sent the ancient technique of a Sith thought bomb, written on flimsy. Unknown to the Brotherhood, however, this is part of Bane's planned cleansing of the Order, for the weapon is immensely powerful and runs the risk of annihilating the entire armies of the Jedi and Sith, while trapping their spirits for eternity in a ball of pure Force energy. The Brotherhood sends out an envoy to meet with Bane, who chooses the planet of Ambria for the reunion. Also on the planet is a healer named Caleb, who refuses allegiance to both the Jedi and Sith. Maintaining a charade of uncertainty, Bane approaches Jithani and they kiss. He soon tastes poison on her lips, but is confident that with his new powers he will be able to fight it off without much trouble. He kisses her 2 more times as she urges him to not trust Khan, giving him some hope she may be able to become his apprentice. However, Githany has laced the poison Bane tested with a second, more lethal toxin, which soon strikes Bane as the emissaries leave Ambria. Determined to survive, he staggers across the land, hoping to find Caleb the healer. Bane encounters a father and his 3 sons and kills them, using the dark side to feed on their anguish and pain to briefly strengthen him. The hellish conflict on Ruusan now spans more than 2 years. A troubled Hoth is visited by a vision of Pernikar, who eases his mind and urges him to mend his relationship with Farfalla, who remains in orbit around the planet. Meanwhile, Bane finds Caleb, who refuses to heal him, stating that pain will not sway his mind. However, Bane discovers Caleb's daughter and threatens her life, forcing the healer to relent. The poison is purged, and Bane prepares to leave Ambria, leaving Caleb alive in case he has further need of him in the future. He arrives at Ruusan, where the Jedi ships are hovering out of firing range of the Sith blockade around the planet. Bane is able to sense the turmoil in the Force on the planet, and lands on the ravaged surface, preparing to begin the purging of the Sith. In the Sith camp, Khan is troubled by the lack of progress in the war and the growing unrest from Lord Copex. He summons the Sith Lords for another meeting, informing them that Githany has discovered Hoth's main camp in the forests of Ruusan. Additionally, however, Khan has been secretly considering the thought bomb delivered to him by Bane. Then, Bane himself arrives, stunning the other Sith, who presumed him to be dead. He waves aside Khan's strategy of flushing Hoth out of the forest, telling them instead to simply destroy it. Bane proposes he teach them another arcane ritual, one different from the thought bomb. He gathers several Sith in a circle and stands in the center, telling the others to open up to the dark side and channel their power into him. Bane feels a surge of strength as he becomes the center of a powerful force storm, which is used to destroy the forest the Jedi are hiding in. Countless lightning strikes ripple across Ruusan, and Hoth and the Jedi wake in the dead of the night and frantically flee the forest. Lord Khan, however, was watching Bane on the side and abruptly ends the ritual, saying the Jedi have been flushed out and the Sith must now fight them head-on. Bane is disgusted, believing blasters and armies are not the way the dark side will triumph. Githany enthusiastically joins in on the mustering of arms, and Bane realizes she is also unworthy and must die, for Khan's teachings have corrupted her too far. Bane doesn't fly out with the others, instead returning to the empty Sith camp. Surprisingly, Lord Cordis confronts him and drops to a knee, offering his allegiance. Cordis claims he has resources that will be useful in helping Bane take over the Brotherhood, but Bane is only interested in extermination, not conquest. He shuns Cordis and force chokes him to death, then heads to the comm station. There, Bane hails the commander of the Sith fleet above Ruusan and orders her to engage the Jedi fleet. Battle breaks out once more on Ruusan, with the full might of the Sith falling upon the shaken Jedi. The Army of Light begins to crumble, and Khan begins to search for General Hoth to eliminate his longtime nemesis. However, all of a sudden Jedi ships drop out of the sky. They bear the insignia of Master Valentine Farfalla, who has somehow broken through the Sith blockade. Now the Sith are forced to retreat, for the Jedi gunships are too heavily armored to fight off. Khan returns to his command tent in a fury and finds Bane sitting there, waiting for him. Bane calmly admits to breaking the blockade, telling Khan his only option left is to use the thought bomb, now that all the Jedi are on the surface. Khan attempts to manipulate Bane into becoming subservient once more to the Brotherhood. Bane seems to fall to Khan's powers and drops to a knee. Khan leaves, planning to lure the Jedi into the caves of Ruusan, where he will detonate the thought bomb. Unknown to him, this is all going exactly according to Bane's plan, whose mind wasn't affected at all by his manipulations. Khan and the Sith army then flee into the caves, and find a large cavern where Khan prepares to begin the dangerous ritual. However, the zeal and bravado of Khan's charisma have now fully worn off for Githany and Lord Copex, who now see that Khan has fully gone mad. Githany is caught up in the swell of the crowd that still flocks to Khan, but Kopex turns his back on the ritual, leaving to find the defending forces outside. As the ritual begins, it enslaves everyone's minds to the will of Khan. However, Jithani manages to break free from its control and frantically tries to escape the caves. Unfortunately, she is trapped in a labyrinth of passages and has no idea how to exit to the surface. Outside, the Sith troops surrender en masse to Farfalla in the 7th and final Battle of Ruusan. A wounded Kopex approaches Farfalla and asks for the opportunity to die in combat. The former Jedi then tells Farfalla about the Thought Bomb and charges the Jedi Master. However, a wounded Kopex is no match for Farfalla, who grants him his wish of death by lightsaber. Hoth then arrives and is told about the Thought Bomb. Knowing Khan is using it to target him specifically, Hoth decides to venture into the caves to see if he can stop the ritual. If the Jedi simply flee, Khan will have the opportunity to detonate the bomb somewhere else in a more dangerous setting. 99 brave Jedi join Hoth as he enters the caves, while the rest enter orbit around Ruusan with Farfalla. The tunnels are cold and pulse with immense power. The Jedi reach the cavern with the Dark Lords, who all seem to be in a stupor except for Khan. Hoth rushes forward to try and stop Khan, but the leader of the Brotherhood of Darkness is too quick and claps his hands above his head. The Thought Bomb detonates, utterly obliterating everyone and everything in the cavern, sending waves of destructive energy rolling out from the epicenter. Kilometers away and still trapped in the caves, Jithani is also killed. Her body is caught in the shock wave of dark side energy, which rips away her very life essence. She becomes a shriveled husk, which crumbles into ash. Farfalla and the Jedi are hovering above the surface and also feel the effects of the Thought Bomb from afar, knowing the great sacrifice their companions made. The Jedi are given orders to search for survivors. Farfalla informs them the native bouncers of Ruusan went mad during the last Sith ritual, and if the Jedi encounter any, they should shoot to kill. As for Darth Bane, he reaches out in the Force and now knows for certain the Brotherhood of Darkness has been purged. His search for an apprentice begins. Elsewhere, a young girl named Rain is woken up by a native bouncer, her friend named Law. Two Jedi troopers then stumble upon Rain and Law, and out of panic shoot Law, killing the bouncer. Rain is devastated and furious with grief. She lashes out, breaking both their necks with the Force. Then, by some strange fortune, Bane arrives, and finds her huddled over Law's body with the corpses of the two Jedi laying to the side. She tells Bane her real name is Zanna, and upon learning he is Sith, asks to learn the ways of the dark side. A Force-sensitive boy wanders one of the battlefields on Ruusan. Only 13 years old, his name is Darovit, and he was recruited by the Jedi to join the Army of Light before the detonation of the Thought Bomb. It is revealed he is a cousin of Zanna, who he believes to be dead. Additionally, Darovit doesn't know how he managed to survive the Thought Bomb, which killed all Force sensitives who were too close. He wanders into the caves and finds a strange metallic orb floating in the air. It seems to suck in all the light around it, and Darovit presses on it with his palm. He is immediately overwhelmed by wails of anguish, for the spirits of the Jedi and Sith vaporized by the Thought Bomb are all stuck for eternity in stasis. Darovit is badly shaken and begins to rock back and forth, barely comprehending what he just experienced. Meanwhile, Darth Bane, the sole surviving Dark Lord in the galaxy, strides across the plains of Ruusan. Though he was far away from the detonation of the Thought Bomb, it still affects him by shooting needles of pain through his mind. He draws on the pain to keep moving forward, as a young girl 10 years of age struggles to keep up with his long paces. She is Zanna, Bane's chosen apprentice. Though young, he knows she has strong potential in the Force, particularly in the dark side. Bane teaches her the code of the Sith, and implores her to call on the emotion she felt when the Jedi killed her friend Law. As he turns to walk away, Zanna tries to use the Force to trip him, which he promptly blocks and turns back on her. It is important for Bane that he teach her patience, to bide her time and let her anger fester while remaining wary of his power. She should look to learn from him, but eventually be driven to supplant him as Lord of the Sith. This is part of the delicate balance that is key to Bane's new rule of two. Meanwhile, Padawan Johann Othone reels from the death of his master, General Ha. He is with other evacuated Jedi on the flagship of Master Valentine Farfalla. The 19-year-old Othone approaches Farfalla and asks to join the rescue teams on the surface of Ruusan. Farfalla tells him to stay on board, since it is unknown what after effects the thought bomb will have on the Jedi. However, Othone sneaks onto a ship with a non-force sensitive rescue team, force persuading them to let him join them on the surface. Elsewhere, Bane and Zanna come across the main Sith camp being looted by mercenaries. Zanna stays behind as Bane runs ahead. She watches as Bane obliterates the mercenaries, allowing two to escape. He hopes they will flee and begin to spread rumors of the Sith's continued existence, which will ideally lead the Jedi on a wild goose chase of deception and lies. Bane scours the camp and finds an ancient manuscript with notes taken by the late Lord Cordis. He learns the ancient tomb of Frida Nad, which had been hidden from both the Jedi and Sith for 3,000 years, is on the planet of Dixun. Bane tells Zanna nothing, and continues to be troubled by the pain in his head and the appearances of figures resembling Lord Khan and Lord Cordis in the corners of his vision. They then set off for the caverns, where Bane hopes to find concrete proof that Khan has died. Meanwhile, in the caves, Darovi has recovered from his spell and now looks to find his way back. Bane and Zanna reach the remnants of the thought bomb, and the tormented spirits wash over them both. Darovi then appears and runs to Zanna, his cousin. Bane moves to kill him, but Zanna, wanting to protect him, instead steps forward and destroys Darovid's hand with the dark side. Bane, impressed with her cunning and power after only a day of teachings, decides to let him live, and they leave the caves. Johann and his pilot Ertana approach the surface of Ruusan. They detect two figures below, who seem to be running in fear. Johann realizes they are likely Sith mercenaries, and the other passengers are eager to hunt them down and kill them. Although Johann originally went down to hunt down any Sith survivors, he now realizes he must guide the citizens of Ruusan away from the dark paths of vengeance. He drops down in front of the mercenaries and learns they are survivors of an attack from a Dark Lord of the Sith. Meanwhile, Bane and Zanna reach his ship. However, Bane tells Zanna she will be left behind while he makes way for the tomb of Frida Nad. This will be a test for her, to see if she can find the power within herself to make it off Ruusan on her own. Bane gives her 10 days to meet him on the world of Onderon. Johann returns to Farfalla's ship and begins questioning the mercenaries. He is summoned to Farfalla's quarters, and is reprimanded for disobeying orders and using the Force to manipulate Ertana's mind. Additionally, the general doesn't believe the mercenaries' tale, and is confident the Sith are well and truly extinct. He tells Johann they will travel to Coruscant to meet with Chancellor Valorum, and that Farfalla will become his new mentor. Back on Ruusan, Zanna uses the Force to propel her along as she looks for a ship to take her to Onderon. She sees a shuttle in the distance and runs towards it. It turns out to be the same shuttle Johann was on, piloted by Ertana and a man named Bordon and his two sons. Telling them her name is Rain, Zanna is taken into their care. She asks for passage to Onderon almost immediately, claiming she has family there. Ertana says that may be possible, but that they will first have to join the Jedi fleet above Ruusan. This complicates Zanna's plans, but she resolves to make it to Onderon, determined to fulfill her destiny as a Sith Lord. She moves quickly, stealing a blaster. Zanna is discovered by one of the sons, and in the scuffle she shoots and kills him. Bordon arrives and is shot by her as well. She heads to the cockpit and forces Ertana to chart a course for Onderon. Ertana tries to talk her down, but Zanna kills her as well. She turns to Bordon's last son, a young child, and ends his life too. Meanwhile, on his way to the tomb, Bane continues to suffer headaches and is haunted by the spirit of Lord Khan. Cordis also appears, and he and Khan goad Bane, trying to sow doubt in his vision for the Sith. Bane lashes out with the Force, dispelling the visions but damaging his ship. He crash lands on Duxun, suffering several injuries. Bane is able to sense the presence of Freedon Nad's tomb in the distance and begins a long, arduous trek. He battles the hostile wildlife and after several hours finally finds the tomb. The spirit of Khan appears and heads inside, with Bane following. He is guided by Khan and Cordis through several passageways, all of which hold nothing of value. Bane squeezes through a small doorway and finds a room with a Sith holocron. The ceiling above him seems to be covered in living creatures, large crustaceans with broad oblong shells. Bane cautiously walks forward, and the creatures begin to fall. He grabs the holocron and slashes at them with his lightsaber, but the weapon has no effect on their shells. More fall and land on his body, digging in with tiny teeth and burrowing into his skin. Two become stuck to Bane, and with a powerful scream he sends the others flying away. Meanwhile, Johan and Farfalla arrive on Coruscant and make their way to Valorum's office. Valorum has summoned Farfalla on short notice to discuss a political measure he intends to pass called the Ruusan Reformations. It will dissolve the Army of Light and call for the Jedi to renounce their military ranks and disband their armed forces. Valorum looks to break away from the cyclical conflict between the light and dark side that sweeps up the galaxy time and time again. Consequently, the Order will now be supervised by the Senatorial Judiciary Branch. On Duxun, Bane learns from Freedon Nad's holocron that the strange creatures attached to him are Orbalists. They seem to be unable to be removed by conventional means, but have granted Bane new powers. His wounds heal quicker, and he can feel them feeding on his dark side energies. Additionally, their shells act as an impenetrable armor, even to lightsaber strikes. However, they secrete acidic fluids into his body that cause significant pain. Yet Bane tolerates this, for it seems he and the Orbalists have formed a symbiotic relationship of sorts. He studies the holocron for 4 days, and also learns that if one of the Orbalists should die, it will kill him as well. They additionally will continue to grow until they cover his entire body, so Bane begins to design a face guard so his head will stay uncovered. With his newfound powers in the Force, the visions of Cordis and Khan have also disappeared. He now looks to fly to the neighboring planet of Onderon to meet Zanna. Bane dominates a flying reptilian Drexel, and manages to fly through the short space between Duxun and Onderon. As for Zanna, after flying the shuttle on autopilot for 7 days, she arrives at Onderon and crash lands in a forest clearing. She is confronted by several native beast riders, who move to abduct her and steal the ship. However, Bane then arrives on his Drexel and slaughters the riders in aerial combat. The battle ends with Bane and 3 Drexels crashing into the ground below, but thanks to the Orbalists, he is able to walk it off and reunite with Zanna. Her true training will now begin in earnest. On Coruscant, Johan learns of Ertana's death. The Ruusan Reformations pass in the Senate, and Farfalla has a new assignment for Johan. He is assigned to be a personal guard for Valorum, and is promoted to the rank of Jedi Knight. Meanwhile, back in the caves of Ruusan, Darovi is guided to the surface by the native bouncers, and looks towards a life where he is neither Sith nor Jedi. Zanna has grown into a formidable Lord of the Sith, acting as Bane's agent and sowing discord in the galaxy. The Orbalists have spread across Bane's body, making it hard for him to remain inconspicuous on missions. As a result, he stays in their base on Ambria and sends Zanna out to further the goals of the Sith. Presently, she is on Sereno, aiding a separatist revolutionary movement through her seductions of its second-in-command, Kelad Den. He is a strikingly handsome Twi'lek, born into a position of power and privilege, but obviously unaware of Zanna's affiliations with the Sith. Back on Ambria, Darth Bane's main goal has shifted to the construction of his own holocron. It is an incredibly complicated and tedious process, one that Bane has failed at several times already over the years. Now, his current attempt fails, with months of work destroyed, and he falls into a red rage. Zanna is taken to Kel's commander, the mysterious Hetton, who is the leader of the revolutionary group Anti-Republic Liberation Front, or ARLF. She remains steadfastly loyal to Bane, but feels that the passions and feelings she has for Kel are something she still craves. The overall goal of the ARLF is to kidnap several local government officials and hold them for ransom, hopefully inciting rebellions throughout the disgruntled Outer Rim. Now, however, Kel calls for a stunning strike to kidnap former Chancellor Valorum, whose term ended 2 years ago but still serves as a diplomatic emissary for the Republic. They will use Zanna's cover as an assistant at the Republic Embassy as an in. It is the fruit of Bane's schemes, as he had claimed the wealths of Cordis after leaving Ruusan. With his new riches, Bane was able to bribe officials, hire spies, and create a vast network of informants. Zanna manipulates Kel into inspiring the rest of the group to move forward with the mission, with or without Hetton's permission. They begin preparations, with the kidnapping to take place in 3 days. As Zanna is still a low-ranking member of the group, she is dismissed, and plans to return to Bane on Ambria. She arrives to find the camp destroyed, with Bane sitting alone in his fury covered in orbalists. Bane tells her he knows the Separatist movement will fail, and that its main purpose is to draw the eyes and resources of the Jedi away from the Sith. Zanna agrees, but tells Bane she worries he may be losing control of the orbalists. Secretly, Zanna hopes to manipulate him into researching ways to rid himself of his living armor. For should Zanna one day finally move to overthrow Bane, she cannot hope to overpower him through sheer strength, let alone with his impenetrable armor. Meanwhile, Johann has continued to serve as Valorum's guard. Over the years, Valorum has managed to usher in an unprecedented time of peace and stability in the Republic, with hundreds of new worlds being brought into its folds. Now, their shuttle flies to Sereno to meet with its wealthy ruling families. Upon landing and disembarking, their shuttle is bombed, and Kel's revolutionary group moves in to abduct Valorum. However, Johann kills all of them, including Kel, and escapes with Valorum. He returns to Coruscant, where as a gesture of gratitude Valorum pledges to build a memorial to the fallen Jedi on Ruusan. Johann supports this despite the Jedi Council's disapproval, as they see it as an unnecessary act of vanity. News spreads rapidly of the failed kidnapping, and Sereno is thrust into the spotlight. Zanna visits the planet and is found by 2 members of the ARLF. She is taken to meet with Hetton, carrying her double-bladed lightsaber with slightly shorter blades. Bane chose that weapon to accommodate her more agile, defensive fighting style that relies on speed and cunning rather than pure strength. Zanna is taken to a large mansion, guarded by soldiers she recognizes as Sith Umbran shadow assassins. She sees Hetton for the first time and senses he has power in the dark side. Now, while Zanna does not have the same strength as Bane, she possesses powers far more arcane, where she has a natural talent for Sith sorcery and dark magic. Presently, she breaks free from one of her guards, and conjures their innermost fears and terrors, driving the guard mad. Zanna doesn't hold back, pushing the guard's mind farther and farther until it breaks. The guard claws out her own eyes as her mind shatters, rendering her catatonic. Zanna calls her lightsaber to her hands with the Force and frees herself. Hetton watches the spectacle, then walks towards her and drops to his knees. He says he has been watching and waiting for the resurrection of the Sith, as he has been trained in the ways of the dark side but was never affiliated with Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness. Hetton tells Zanna of his collection of artifacts, including data on Belia Darzu, an ancient lord of the Sith who had the ability to transform living beings into machines. Additionally, she allegedly discovered the secret of how to construct a Sith holocron. Hetton offers to lead Zanna to Darzu's stronghold on the planet of Tython, in exchange for the chance to become her apprentice. Zanna tells him of Bane, to which Hetton boldly suggests they travel to Ambria and kill him with the Umbran assassins. She agrees, wanting to assess Bane's strength further, and they fly to Ambria. Hetton and the assassins ambush Bane as he sleeps, but the might of Bane is fierce, and he kills Hetton and the Umbrans. Bane then turns and attacks Zanna. However, she manages to tell him of the stronghold on Tython, and Bane ceases his assault, approving of Zanna's ruthless tactics. Construction of the memorial begins on Ruusan, where Darovit has also dwelled for the past decade. He has become a reclusive hermit, bitter against the conflict both the Jedi and Sith brought to Ruusan. Now, he sabotages the construction droids of the Republic, delaying the memorial building by several weeks. As for the Sith, Bane takes a ship to Tython, hoping to finally unlock the secrets of holocron construction. He sends Zanna to Coruscant, ordering her to infiltrate the Jedi Temple to research ways to remove the Orbalisk. It will be a considerable test of her powers to see if she can successfully disguise her Force presence from the Jedi. Johan, stationed on Ruusan, captures Darovit on another one of his sabotage missions. Questioning the Wild Hermit, Johan learns of Darovit's past experiences with an alleged Sith Lord who took his cousin Rain as an apprentice. He is able to persuade him to return with him to Coruscant to warn the Jedi Council. Zanna, meanwhile, successfully infiltrates the archives, having to maintain an intense focus on keeping up her disguise. Bane arrives at Tython, the ancient homeworld of the first Jedi Knights, but now corrupted into a bastion of the dark side. He finds Belia's compound and enters her labs, filled with organodroid hybrids. Bane finds the room with the holocron filled with ancient techno-beasts, awaiting orders from a long-dead master. They attack as soon as he grabs the holocron, but cannot pierce his Orbalisk armor. Bane destroys all the beasts and leaves Tython with the holocron. Meanwhile, Johan approaches Master Farfalla to once more warn him of the continued existence of the Sith. Farfalla is more willing to listen, but wants to meet with Darovit first. They head to the archives where Johan last left him when they landed. Coincidentally, it is still where Zanna has been conducting her research for the past several hours, but to no avail. However, at long last she finds a data card detailing the removal of Orbalisks. In her excitement, she briefly blows her cover, and Darovit senses her presence in the Force. He finds her, recognizing Rain immediately, and warns her the Jedi have been told about her and Bane. Zanna whisks him away, making for her ship and planning to fly to Tython to warn Bane. Johan and Farfalla arrive at the archive soon after, but cannot find Darovit. They follow his trail to a computer, where they discover Zanna's searches for hyperspace routes to Tython. Farfalla is troubled, for this implies that Johan is right and the Sith survived the thought bomb. He tells Johan they will fly to Tython themselves to discover the truth. On the way to Tython, Darovit is commanded by Zanna to research the cure to the Orbalisk. They land on the planet and find Bane, who has successfully discovered the missing piece to building a holocron, the incorporation of a complex ritual involving the capstone. However, shortly after Zanna and Darovit land, another ship enters the atmosphere. It is the Jedi. Johan and Farfalla arrive at Tython with several formidable warriors of the Order. Among them are Master Rasta Lusu, ranked as Jedi Weapons Master who fights with 2 sabers. Also present is Saro Zaj, a massive warrior who wields a ferocious double-bladed lightsaber. Master Warrior joins them as well, and serves as the group's healer. They land on the surface and approach a large compound, where Bane and Zanna are hiding and waiting for the Jedi. Bane paces in a massive open room, with Zanna standing off to the side as the 5 Jedi enter. Farfalla and Rasta attack Bane, who charges them head-on. Zanna takes on Johan and Saro, and falls into a defensive stance designed to wear her opponents out, constantly keeping her double-bladed lightsaber spinning in an impenetrable circle. She quickly realizes Saro is the more skilled warrior, and that the 2 Jedi's attacks fail to complement each other the way they should. Master Warrior begins meditating in a corner, giving the other 4 Jedi strength through the Force. Then, Johan is called over to help Rasta and Farfalla fight Bane, and Zanna is left alone with the towering Saro. At the same time, Farfalla and Rasta fight Bane and adjust to his Orbalisk armor and his unique lightsaber with its curved hilt. Though empowered by Warrior's meditation, they cannot bring Bane down, who turns to charge at the healer in his trance. Farfalla manages to briefly stop him, and Rasta leaps in front of Bane, her blades whirling in defense of Warrior. Johan then joins them, and manages to score a wound on Bane's hand that disarms the Sith. But then Bane screams, and a powerful wave of dark side energy flattens the Jedi. His wounds heal instantly, and Johan is forced to force push Warrior away from Bane, breaking the battle meditation and instantly fatiguing the Jedi. As Warrior's meditations break, Sorrow briefly hesitates. He has been slowly wearing Zanna down, but now without the help of Warrior, his defenses have lapsed. She instantly strikes with her Sith sorcery, sending demons and nightmares into the Jedi's mind. Zanna finally sees an opening and slashes Sorrow across the chest, killing him. She moves to help Bane, concealing her presence in the Force from the still distracted Jedi. Zanna sneaks up behind Rasta and stabs her through the back. The remaining Jedi are stunned, and Bane cuts off Johan's hand and decapitates Farfalla. He slashes Warrior's throats and moves in to finish off Johan, summoning dark lightning and energy. But with his dying breath, Warrior grabs Bane's ankle and encases them in a force field just as Bane unleashes the lightning. It reflects and strikes back onto him, and Bane falls to the ground, smoking. Zanna sees Johan desperately crawling to his lightsaber and finishes him off, ending the battle. Bane manages to survive, but several of the orbalists on his body perished, meaning he only has days to live. Zanna retrieves Darobi and they take Bane back to the shuttle, along with the fallen Jedi's lightsabers. To save Bane's life, for she still has more to learn from her master, Zanna plots a course for Ambria, looking to find the healer Caleb. They land by Caleb's shack, and Zanna finds the healer hiding in a trapdoor. He refuses to help Zanna and tells her his daughter is off-world and living under a different identity so she cannot be used against him. Pain and the promise of credits do not sway him, leaving Zanna frustrated and helpless to save Bane. Darovit then heads in to speak with Caleb. Upon returning, he tells Zanna Caleb will only help them if Zanna tells the Jedi of their location so they can arrest Bane. Left with no other option, Zanna agrees to his demands. Caleb begins healing Bane, who awakens to find Zanna by his side and the Orbalisk gone. It has been several days since the bargain was struck, and Zanna now tells Bane the Jedi are on their way to Ambria. Their ship has been disabled as insurance, and Bane is furious, urging Zanna to kill him instead. Zanna ignites her lightsaber as the Jedi ship enters the atmosphere of Ambria. A team of 14 Jedi cautiously approach Caleb's shack, not knowing what they might find. As they draw closer, they encounter a gruesomely butchered human body, cut apart by a lightsaber. It is Caleb, and all of a sudden a crazed young man missing a hand charges the Jedi wielding a golden lightsaber. He is quickly cut down by the Jedi, and one of the masters realizes the golden saber belonged to Farfalla. They come to believe the young man, who unknown to them was Darobi, was the last Sith Lord who killed the Jedi team on Tython. They believe he came to Ambria, where Caleb discovered his identity and sabotaged the ship in order to warn the Jedi. The Sith, in a misguided attempt to heal himself, went mad and killed Caleb. The Jedi, satisfied that the last of the Sith has finally died out, leave Ambria and the shuttle behind. However, everything has gone according to Zanna's plan, where she corrupted Darovit's mind and butchered Caleb herself, making it seem as if Darovit was the last Sith when, in fact, she and Bane were hiding in Caleb's cellar all along. Bane realizes her true plan and is greatly pleased with his apprentice. The rule of two remains intact, but the time for the inevitable confrontation between Zanna and Bane draws ever nearer. Darth Bane and his apprentice Darth Zanna have established a new base on the moon of Sutric 4. They pose as siblings and wealthy entrepreneurs to the rest of the galaxy. Bane is now in his mid-40s, and though he has been healed of the parasitic Orbalisk, he knows his strength is beginning to dwindle. His body aches, and he has an inescapable tremor in his left hand. However, with the Orbalisk gone, Bane is now free to re-enter society, and is now able to continue the mission of the Sith without relying on Zanna as an intermediary. He has at last constructed his own holocron, and it seems the future of the Sith is safe. However, he is troubled by the seeming lack of progress of Zanna, for the rule of two dictates that one day Zanna must challenge Bane for supremacy of the Sith, but Zanna has shown no indication she plans to do so for the past 2 decades. This violates a core tenet of the rule of two, troubling Bane. He needs Zanna to challenge him or risk the Sith falling into stagnation. As a result, Bane begins to look for ways to extend his own life and centers his search on the missing holocron of Darth Undead, an ancient Sith Lord who supposedly lived for centuries. On the planet of Doan, Jedi Knight Med Tandar has been given the tedious task of mediating a settlement between the ruling family and the planet's miners. The miners ask for equal representation in the government, indicative of a wider trend in the galaxy of the lower classes rising up. They have also uncovered a cache of Sith artifacts, which Tandar wishes to take back to Coruscant. The bickering continues, and Tandar soon senses a disturbance in the Force. Several miners are killed by an unseen assassin, and the Force manifests as a cold gut punch to Tandar when he tries to tap into it. He continues to draw on the Force, but finds his powers have somehow been corrupted and perverted to darker ones. The assassin steps forward, having killed all the miners, and is revealed to be an Iktakchi female hired by the noble family. Tandar disarms her by pulling her blaster out of her hand with the Force. However, the assassin had wired it to explode, and Tandar perishes in the blast. It is then revealed that the Doan princess is Sarah, the daughter of Caleb the Healer. She is a widow, for her prince husband was killed in a failed kidnapping by the rebels. Additionally, one of her guards, Lucia, fought in the Gloom Walkers unit during the war between the Sith and Jedi, though neither of them know of Dessel's transformation to Darth Bane. Sarah meets with her father, the king, who tells her of the rebels' deaths, but that a Jedi was killed as well. However, it turns out the king was not responsible for hiring the assassin, and her true allegiance remains a mystery. Sarah is accused of hiring the killer, as she is an outsider not of royal blood. She leaves the chamber, and Lucia confesses to hiring the Iktakchi, saying she only wanted to help Sarah with her grief. Sarah comforts Lucia, but relishes the deaths of the rebels, the dark emotions catching Lucia off guard. The princess then plans to travel to Coruscant to explain the situation to the Jedi Council, who will undoubtedly want answers for the death of one of their knights. Elsewhere, Bane meets with one of his contacts, posing as a wealthy man interested in Sith artifacts. He buys an ancient manuscript that implies a temple dedicated to Darth Undead, and presumably his holocron is on the world of Prakith. Bane now looks to find a way to travel there without arousing Zanna's suspicions. He decides to send her to Doan to investigate the death of the Jedi there. Zanna touches down on Doan, and it is revealed she has not been as complacent as Bane believes. She has noticed the tremor afflicting Bane, but is unsure whether or not he is faking it to lure her into a false sense of security. Additionally, Zanna does not want to challenge Bane until she has found a suitable apprentice of her own in order to maintain the rule of two. Nonetheless, she feels the time is ripe to strike against her master, and resolves to challenge him when she returns from Doan. Sarah and Lucia arrive on Coruscant and head to the Jedi Temple. They meet with Master Abba, a member of the Council of First Knowledge. Abba immediately senses the Force is strong in Sarah, surprising Lucia. Sarah plays dumb, pretending to not know the true nature of Tandar's death. She and Lucia are told of the danger the Sith artifacts pose. Sarah is able to manipulate the topic of the conversation away from Tandar, but Abba confides to her that he believes a dark Jedi named Set Hearth may have been the killer. Sarah is also told that Set may be the most formidable enemy of the Jedi alive, since the Sith are believed to be extinct. She is guided to a memorial in the temple, which is dedicated to the strike team led by Master Farfalla against the believed last Lord of the Sith. There, Sarah learns of Caleb's death and is told of the tragic missions on Tython and Ambria. However, upon hearing the physical description of the Sith, Sarah realizes the story cannot be correct, as she remembers the mysterious, powerfully imposing dark figure who first visited her and Caleb when she was young. Sarah then asks Lucia to contact the assassin for another mission. It turns out Set Hearth is indeed on Doan, and though he did not kill Tandar, he is also searching for the Sith artifacts. He finds a bartender named Quano, who agrees to lead him to the artifacts for a hefty price. However, Quano double-crosses Set, sending thugs to attack him. Set easily dispatches them and forces Quano to lead him to the treasures. They head into a cave system, where they hide and Quano shows Set a man named Drado, the new leader of the revolutionaries. Set observes Drado giving a fiery speech from his vantage point and notices he is wearing a talisman of some sort. Set emerges from the shadows and attacks. He fires 2 pistols at the fleeing miners and unleashes a deadly lightsaber throw that causes several stalactites to fall from the ceiling. Quano escapes, and Set force chokes Drado to death, stealing an amulet and ring. Later, Zanna comes across Quano's destroyed cantina. Quano himself then shows up and tells her of Set's appearance. He agrees to lead her to a spaceport where Zanna hopes to find Set's trail. There, Quano's contact reveals Set's ship came from Nal Hutta. Unfortunately, he reveals he also hacked into Zanna's shuttle and consequently knows she is from Sutric 4. To protect her and Bane's identities, Zanna immediately kills Quano and the contact and loads their bodies onto her ship, where she jettisons them into a sun. Bane, on the other hand, has finally reached Prakith after hundreds of small hyperspace jumps. It is in the deep core of the galaxy, where stars are densely packed and black holes prevalent. He lands on Prakith, surprised to find it relatively modernized. Bane learns that the cult following Undead is somewhere in a mountain range by the spaceport. He flies to the mountains and finds Undead's stronghold. The cultists swarm out to battle him, and Bane cloaks himself in a cloud of dark energy. A field of shadow emanates out from him, and upon touching the cultists, it instantly ages them thousands of years, sucking out their very life essence. Bane mows through the attackers as he heads deeper into the temple. He comes across the sarcophagus of Undead himself and wrenches the holocron of the dead Sith from his mummified hands. Bane then begins the long trek back to Sutric 4. Lucia, meanwhile, travels to Paradise, a space station by the Corellian system. She finds the Itachi assassin, who she only knows as the Huntress. The Huntress is asked to meet Sarah in person on Ambria. As for Zanna, she is now on Nal Hutta, following the trail of Set Hearth. She finds his lavish mansion and breaks inside, discovering his vast collection of dark side artifacts. Zanna wonders if he could become her apprentice, and just then Set comes back home from a party. Zanna walks out to confront him, and Set seems to not recognize her as a threat. Then, he attacks her, moving quickly and instilling hope in Zanna that he may be a viable, cunning candidate. They duel with lightsabers, and Zanna refrains from killing him, looking instead to test his skills. She ends the fight by unleashing her Sith sorcery on Set, and leaves him on the floor in the fetal position. If his will is strong, he will be able to fight his way out of the nightmare she created, and will be worthy to join the Order of the Sith. Meanwhile, the Huntress lands on Ambria and meets Sarah for the first time. She possesses the unique talent to perceive past, present, and future events in specific places and beings. Consequently, the Huntress is able to learn of Sarah's past and her vendetta against Bane instantly, and also catches a glimpse of a young blonde woman with astonishing powers in Sith sorcery. Sarah tasks the Huntress with capturing Bane and bringing him to Ambria, where Sarah will use Caleb's teachings to poison Bane with Senflax, paralyzing him. The Huntress is given 20 warriors to help with her mission. Bane begins to learn the secrets of essence transfer from Undead's holocron. The dangerous ritual involves the transfer of one's consciousness and spirit to another vessel, at the risk of destroying the original body if unsuccessful. However, the hologram of Undead refuses to teach Bane, a part of the unique programming of holocrons. Bane circumvents this, pouring his will into the holocron so he can extract its knowledge by force. The information overload into his mind overwhelms him, and he passes out. Elsewhere, Set Hearth awakens after 3 nights, having successfully overcome Zanna's sorcery. Zanna herself stands by his bed, and tells him of the rule of 2 and that he has been deemed a suitable apprentice. The self-minded Set considers her offer and knows he has no option but to accept or risk death by Zanna or Bane's hand. Zanna also knows Set currently lacks the proper ambition and drive to learn the Sith philosophies, but feels he is the best option for her now. Using her unique powers, the Huntress discovers Bane's mansion on Sutric 4. She is troubled by the perpetual visions of Bane and the young blonde woman in the future, all of which have different outcomes. The Huntress and her mercenaries break into Bane's mansion and begin wiring it with traps for when Bane arrives. Bane then shows up, having now mastered the technique of essence transfer. Deeming a cloned body as an unviable option due to time, he decides he must find a living body instead to conquer. He enters his mansion, and the Huntress and her mercenaries set off their sonic detonators. The Huntress hinders Bane's ability to call in the Force, but he begins a ferocious battle with the mercenaries nonetheless. She throws a flash grenade at his feet, stunning him once more, and the mercenaries entangle him with web guns. Bane unleashes a powerful surge of electricity, breaking his bindings. The Huntress lunges at Bane, managing to score a long cut on one of his forearms. She dances away as Bane fights through more mercenaries. Then, the Senflax takes effect, and Bane collapses, paralyzed. The Huntress takes him away, along with Bane's holocron and lightsaber, which she is fascinated by. Zanna and Set, who has regained his brash boldness, also arrive at Sutric 4. Zanna prepares for the final confrontation with Bane and feels a sense of unease in the Force. She also learns of Bane's journey that coincided with hers and knows it has something to do with replacing her. They reach the mansion, finding it destroyed in the aftermath of the battle and Bane gone. Zanna decides to find Bane's contact for Sith artifacts to learn what he was looking for, and Set discovers a Doan royal insignia on the ground. He is sent to Doan to investigate, and is ordered to meet Zanna back on Sutric 4 in 2 days. They reunite later, with Zanna being forced to kill the contact after only learning the name of Darth Indedu. Set, however, knows of Indedu's lore and tells Zanna Bane was likely searching for the holocron's guidance to achieving immortality. Zanna is stunned and perceives this as a betrayal of the Rule of Two. She believes Bane and the holocron, which Set seems to be keenly interested in, are on Doan. Elsewhere, Bane is detained by Sarah in the stone prisons of Doan, a twisting labyrinth of rock. He has been kept under constant sedation for 3 days until Sarah can question him. Lucia is concerned the princess has reopened the ancient prison for the sole purpose of revenge against Bane. Sarah orders everyone out so she can speak with Bane alone, but Lucia and the Huntress insist on joining. Bane is revived, and Lucia instantly recognizes him as her former commander from the Gloom Walkers. Sarah begins torturing Bane with her chemical concoctions, looking for a confession that he killed Caleb, her father. She gets dragged into a philosophical argument with Bane, and is forced to sedate him and leave the room to collect her thoughts. The Huntress soon follows, leaving Lucia alone with Bane. She is conflicted, disturbed by Sarah's bloodthirsty anger for revenge, but still feeling loyal to Bane in memory of the Gloom Walkers. She grabs a red needle and injects a stimulant into Bane, which will soon wake him up again. Lucia quickly leaves the room, wanting to find Sarah and get her out of the prison before Bane breaks free. However, she finds both the princess and the Huntress to be gone. Zanna lands on Doan, with Set guiding her to the stone prison, where he believes Bane is being held. She ventures alone into the prison, leaving Set behind to guard her ship. Set quickly becomes bored, and soon begins to consider the short-term options for his future. He debates whether to abandon Zanna, which runs the risk of her surviving and hunting him down, or to continue learning from her. However, a third option soon arises. He senses the presence of Darth Indedu's holocron, and, tempted by the idea of everlasting life, ventures into the stone prison in search of it. Bane comes back to his senses in his cell, and shatters his cuffs with the power of his mind. He blasts open the door and brutally kills the guards in hand-to-hand combat. Bane begins searching for Sarah and the Huntress, and also senses Zanna's faint arrival in the Force. Alarms begin to go off as elsewhere, Sarah breaks down in tears. The Huntress tells her of Lucia's betrayal, and a shocked Sarah races back to the cells. As for Lucia, she continues to look for Sarah as the Huntress observes the chaos unfold. She is coldly interested in seeing the outcome, and decides to wait and see who comes out on top. She believes her destiny is about to unfold in front of her. Zanna closes in on Bane's presence in the Force as Set also draws nearer to Indedu's holocron. He is able to find the holocron and looks to steal one of the ships and escape during the final battle. Meanwhile, Sarah reaches the prison's control room, looking to initiate its self-destruct sequence. However, she hesitates over the final confirmation button, unable to condemn Lucia to death and expose her schemes to the king. Set reaches a hangar but is confronted by the Huntress, who still has Bane's lightsaber. They begin to battle, but the Huntress quickly gains the upper hand by suppressing Set's connection to the Force. Set is forced to flee, the Huntress reveling in the chase. Meanwhile, Bane runs into Lucia in a corridor, and she calls him by his old name of Des. However, Bane tells her his past self is gone. He is now and forevermore a Sith. He prepares to kill her, but then a powerful wave of Force energy ripples towards them. Bane is able to throw up a shield, but Lucia is killed by the shockwave. Zanna then appears, accusing Bane of being weak and unable to kill Lucia himself. Bane responds by telling Zanna she is unworthy of becoming Master of the Sith, but she soon realizes he does not have his lightsaber, which is still with the Huntress. Laughing, she leaps forward and attacks. Elsewhere, Sarah cancels the self-destruct command and soon finds Lucia's body. She sees Zanna and Bane battling in the distance. Now forlorn, she turns around and activates the self-destruct sequence once more, and the prison begins to rumble. Meanwhile, the Huntress and Set continue the battle, with Set slowly being worn down but always remaining out of reach. Both soon hear the alarms change and realize the prison will soon be destroyed. Still looking to escape, Set disables 2 of the 4 shuttles nearby, telling the Huntress he will leave one for her if she allows him to escape. She reluctantly agrees, and Set flies away with Endedu's holocron. Despite only Zanna having a lightsaber, the battle between her and Bane is evenly matched. However, as the prison begins to fall, a wall falls between the 2 Sith, separating them. Zanna is forced to run to find her ship to escape, and Bane turns to find a way off Doan as well. He reaches the hangar where the Huntress is waiting. Surprising Bane, she drops to a knee and offers him back his holocron and lightsaber, asking to become his apprentice. Bane accepts, and they fly away from the stone prison. Zanna also manages to fly away, but knows she has failed in her plan and must find Bane again. Additionally, Set Hearth has undoubtedly abandoned her, meaning she must find a new apprentice. Sarah, meanwhile, has fled to Ambria, knowing she cannot return to Doan for the crime she has committed. There, she buries Lucia's body, and finally understands the anger and hate she let fester in her misguided her actions and steered her to the dark side. At the same time, Bane and the Huntress, using her unique powers, have tracked Sarah to Caleb's old cabin, where Sarah strides out to meet them. She tries to turn the Huntress away from Bane's side, but the Sith stand motionless. Bane then orders the Huntress to kill Sarah, and the former princess of Doan is cut down in front of her family home. Elsewhere, Zanna reevaluates her strategy against Bane and decides to employ her Sith sorcery in full effect against him next time. The Huntress is formally inducted into the Sith by Bane, taking the new name of Darth Cognis, for her true strength lies in her mind and ability to perceive the future. However, she cannot tell what will happen in the final confrontation between Bane and Zanna. Looking to end things once and for all, Bane sends a transmission to Zanna, summoning her to Ambria. Zanna soon arrives and prepares to battle Bane for the final time, with Cognis standing to the side, vowing to swear allegiance to whichever Sith comes out on top. Bane opens with powerful attacks, driving Zanna back. His speed and ferocity forces her to dance away, her lightsaber spinning defensively. He breaks one of her ribs with a kick, and Zanna chooses that moment to unleash her sorcery. Demons enter Bane's mind and nearly drive him to madness. However, he dispels them with a powerful scream, but Zanna then reaches into the earth and conjures dark tendrils that attack Bane. Their touch is excruciating, instantly dissolving Bane's flesh. He lunges again to strike at Zanna and drives her to the ground. Then, a tentacle grabs Bane's arm, instantly cutting off his forearm. Bane launches a last desperate attack and invokes the ritual of essence transfer. His living flesh vanishes to ash, and his spirit becomes separated from his physical body. His spirit enters Zanna's body, and the battle becomes a colossal clash of wills. They teetered on the precipice of the void, Bane seeking to obliterate all trace of her identity, while she sought to cast him into the blackness. For a moment they seemed to be evenly matched, neither gaining nor giving ground, and then suddenly it was over. Cognis, watching as the battle concludes, walks forward as Zanna arises. The young woman formally introduces herself as Darth Zanna, now the reigning Lord of the Sith. Darth Bane has been defeated, but his legacy of the rule of two will continue under Zanna and her new apprentice, Darth Cognis. Cognis is given Bane's lightsaber, and can't help but notice Zanna continues to clench and unclench her left hand. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, Set Hearth has managed to unlock the secrets of Darth Nderu's holocron, and begins to learn the secret of essence transfer for himself.